This is Cynthia Borsellino, and I have with me Kim Daniels today.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kim. Valencia's not with us. She is taking care of her daughter who's homesick today, so she's not able to be with us. But Kim, it's great to be here with you, and we're diving in with the Revived and Restored and building community in a way that we do that is through the loving care of Jesus Christ, who we seek and look to every day. And we are doing a book called Waking Up Gray, A Creative Awakening by Jenny Shute. And I hope I say her name wrong. I mean, right. I mean, not wrong. But we're in a chapter 5 about self-care. And we've come out of all the, I think last time we were discussing about the imposter and stuff. And now we're going to go into some self-care. And
So this is a big shift.
yeah. It's a huge shift. And I like the beginning of what she says, childlike nurturing. And in the areas, probably for a lot of us, and not everyone, but there's places of nurturing that didn't happen when we were children, and that God can restore, God can redeem. And I love that he came to redeem us. You know, that's the whole way of the cross. And a lot of our, I kind of like something that she said about operating out of our belovedness, how loved we are by him, that Jesus came to die to make a way for us to be reconnected, to understand and know why we're here, who we are, what we're created for, all of that, right? And so, and we talked about a little bit earlier, came about how in the early years, how we get defined.
Yeah, we don't know who we are. I mean, babies look to the outside to find out, who am I? What am I? That's why when you look at people who talk about birth order, each one has a completely different identity based on the experience that they go through. And we put on, that goes back to the imposter a lot of times. So now that we've dealt with the imposter, taking that off is like, okay, Lord, who really am I? So that's where the self-care, we can't figure out how to be nurtured until we know who God's made us to be.
Yeah. And I, there's a point where, and I can look at what was defining me, as a child, different things, and especially because of the being introduced to sex at such a young age, and kind of stripping me of my identity, my innocence, my purity, all of that. As a child, to come out to play again, and letting the Lord heal those places and restore those places, to find out somewhere I got lost along, I abandoned who I am. It's kind of like abandonment. It's just not by other people that you feel abandoned, but also yourself. You abandon yourself. And so I think that's something that the Lord's been showing me. And how do I recapture that? And it only can be recaptured from him. That's it. Yeah. That he's our creator. And I love, I'll go into more down the road, but we talk about how fearfully and wonderfully made we are. And to understand the depth of that, we won't know unless we get to know him and spend time with him for him to unveil that to us. Right. And I'm, and he knows everything that's happened. He knows the journey that we've been on thus far. Right. And I've, nothing surprises him.
Not at all.
We think, oh, I can't talk about that. Don't want to bring that one up. And it's like, no, we need to bring it
we
forward.
We won't embarrass him.
Yeah. And then hard people try to defend Jesus too. You're like, he doesn't need defending.
No.
He did it. So, anyway, I love it. And it's kind of like when I talked about where before in my identity, I felt like there were so many things that I experienced that made me so bad. Right. And that if I opened this box, it was going to be a Pandora's box, and it was just going to be this like nasty stuff. And then what I found out is that he was opening that treasure box, that I was that treasure.
He sees the treasure.
Yeah.
That treasure underneath all of that stuff.
Yeah. So it's kind of fascinating to see that he, and I think I remember when I first got saved, and somebody was telling me the story of him dying, the Last Supper, and him going to the cross, and I had a vision of that. It was just a Holy Spirit account that I didn't know anything about. I had no idea what I was seeing, but I just started weeping. I just felt His love. So He comes to us first, I think, as that.
Oh yeah,
as the lover, and as like in a beautiful, pure way, and that we're His beloved. And there was no shame. There was no, that was my beginning walk, but I had lots of years to have to deal with all of that still, because of the way that we are in this world, in this fallen state. But the more you enter into Him, then His presence is like, it's just amazing to me how He begins to nurture us in a way that brings life and back to where
He's redeeming it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just love that. And one of the things she said, identify something that what was it?
Self-nourishment.
The self-nourishment. The last time that you did something childlike. Do you remember that question she asked? When was the last time you did something childlike, not childish, but childlike, where it's playfulness, right? And I was thinking about with Nani Camp and doing the Nani Camp with you, and that paper mache, getting my hands all wet in that, and I call it paper mache. I don't know if that's what it's called.
I'll think of it later.
Yeah. Anyway, we
paper
did
mush.
Paper mush. We did this activity that Kim brought together. Brought all the stuff for it, but and the paper gets wet, and you put like clay in it. Is that?
You put a tiny little bit of clay. You basically are just recycling scrap paper, and then using molds to create something beautiful out of it.
Yeah. So it was so much fun, and you get your hands wet. You're in it.
Yeah.
Some people try to wear the plastic gloves because they didn't like the feel of it. Yeah, they didn't like the.
So I grew up playing in mud and making mud pies, and to me, I can look back to that time and know how fun it was, and it felt really good to me. So I didn't even think about it, but I like to create things.
Yeah.
When we moved here, I had a lot of papers I had to shred. So shredding was getting rid of the old. And then I took a lot of that shredding and I did make some paper out of it.
Yeah.
We also put it in our garden as mulch, but in creating something out of something that was garbage, to turn it into something beautiful was fun, but it was play. I love to create things.
Yeah, really so much. Oh, that just awesome. I didn't even think about, because I shred. I have a shredder at my house too, and I think of using that to take and put it in my garden. That's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's pretty great.
Good mulch.
Yeah, and it was just even seeing that, like you said, you make something out of it that is just
life-giving.
Yeah, and you're like, how did it? And I for the first time, which I kind of looked to see what I could do, but I would never have considered myself an artist in the form of painting or drawing. But singer-songwriter, yes, poetry. I write poetry. But now I'm doing more, and the word that the Lord gave me for this year is sparrow. So I started studying a little bit more about that, and the sparrow, like
the little bird.
There's 5 scriptures that I found in the Bible about sparrows, and I didn't bring that here, but so I'm kind of digging deep, and then I found a way to look at one, and it showed me the little part. So I drew my first sparrow. I was like, that wasn't. I mean, it's not perfect, but to me that was I was childlike. I was being childlike. I'm going to learn. Sometimes as we get older, we forget that the learning phase of things is an adventure. It's really a great adventure if you stay in that learning, like being teachable.
Yeah.
It's just staying teachable.
Yeah.
That I've been there, done that. Well, maybe not, and maybe it could be done in a different way, or just different perspective of things, and that just that delight, and it was just fun. I was like watching it form, and I was like, oh wow, it's just
okay to do it that way.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's just so fun. But
wow.
And I think that being more acquainted with who we are, there's a part of me, I remember having this kind of epiphany moment with Jesus, showing me how to be or how to show up. Just kind of like my husband gave me a card with, he drew all these little fruits, and he wouldn't consider himself, but it was really cute. But the fruits of the Spirit, and he put over to the right, these are fruit, real fruit. Like I could tell they were. Like he did a great job, but he
wanted to make sure you understood. Yeah.
And it was kind of funny, but it's like it was just so sweet that that's kind of one of my life verses in Galatians 5 about the fruits of the Spirit. I have a lot of life verses, but that's one of my favorite ones because it's like what's manifesting. Like, well, how am I showing up today? How am I showing up with people or the relationships I am? Is it which fruit is being displayed?
Okay.
And if it's not one of those fruits, it's like, okay, Lord, I need to get with you and change. And one of the things that it's like, that's really who I am.
Yes. Yeah.
He created us to have that kind of fruit. Peace, patience, kindness, gentleness,
and those
long
nurture
suffering.
Not only you, they nurture the other person too.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's just really powerful. So it's like those, like I want to, and you get excited because that's really who I was made to be.
Yeah.
But we're all uniquely different in how we show up in that, but those fruits will still manifest, right? They'll still show up in our lives. It's kind of it's kind of interesting how it.
When you were talking, I was thinking back to looking at kindergartners' drawings and how they are so proud of them and so confident.
Yeah.
But how teachers do have to label them so that people know, well, this is what this means, and this is my mother, and this is my dog, and this is me, and there's no way you could figure out what it is, but the parent loves it. The teachers love it. And that's like the Lord. Anything that we let the childlikeness come out and are willing to let that experience happen, the Lord looks at it with so much love. He really loves it.
And he delights in it.
Yeah.
He totally delights in it. And that's what I've known. It's just that because we're showing up with him, like we're showing up and we're like being more intentional, like saying, I'm going to take the time to do this. And I think that's kind of what robs us. And, we went about looking more like Jesus. We don't become Jesus. We look more like him. And I think that's where I talked about a little about the fruit. What am I producing here? Right. And then when we're created in his likeness, I think it's kind of that character, but we're still uniquely, and there's no two people alike.
Right.
Might be some similar things, but no two people alike. And I think one of the questions she had us go through a lot of questions, like, in what ways do we love well? What are our strengths, and what are our gifts? And how was that for you to write, to sit down and go through that list to say, could you write about yourself in that? How easy was that? Was it difficult or was it easy?
That's her question. Well, I haven't written it all out yet, but in looking through them, I could answer some of them, but the one that stuck out was, how am I worthy of love? That gets back again to that core of.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I go, but Lord, I know that when you touch my life, there's a transforming that happens, and I become more like you. And that's what is lovable about me, is the likeness of the Lord in my life. I keep thinking back to when in the Old Testament they would talk about how if somebody touched something unclean, they became unclean. But as we touch the Lord, his holiness actually cleanses us. So it's the opposite. It pushes out that ugly, unholy.
It's kind of like what I was at church the other day for a prayer. We were just there for an hour for prayer, just kind of a silent prayer time, but the worship and all that, and it was just beautiful. And I had encountered the Lord too. And one of the things he said to me is that the pure and spotless bride, that he was, it's time for the bride to arise. And I've had probably maybe teachings in the past or whatever too, but just longing for that. Like, is it going to be which generation is going to be the pure spotless bride? To usher in the presence of Jesus, right, for his return. And he said, "You all are." His creation is the pure spotless. He's the one that made us pure and spotless.
Yeah, nobody else.
Yeah, he rose from the dead, and like when he did that, it was done. It's complete. We get to come into that when we enter into it and we sit with him. We get to know him. He shows us who we really are, and that's when things are transformed in us. It's like, oh my gosh, that's really me. And I think and that's what I was trying to get to before. It's like I had this moment where I thought, I know in the depth of my being, there's something like when you've been living in sin or you've been living apart from Jesus, you start getting closer and closer and closer. There's that moment you realize that's been the longing in my heart all along.
Yeah.
That's been the longing in my heart all along. I'm like, Lord, in the depth of my being, I knew there was more. I didn't know. It's you. It's you. It's what I was created for. It's you. To know you, to know the Father, to walk in Holy Spirit. It's like with the Holy Spirit, it's like, oh my goodness, he's like, and I remember just having that moment of just that awe of, and it's so good. It's you feel alive, and that's when joy erupts in you, and everything of this world, it's like it comes dimmer and dimmer, and it's kingdom eternally. It's for eternity. It's just beautiful, I mean, he's just so good, and that's where I think the worthy and all of that, worthy of love is because he says we are. I mean, he died because he loves us so much, and it's like, and with the people that we're around, when we get that, then we can, because it's like, unless you love, you love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind first and foremost, and then the second commandment, Jesus said is
love your neighbor as yourself. Yeah.
How we can't truly love others unless we love ourselves.
And that's a big step to take for a lot of people because they've learned that self-denial is the right way to go, serving others. And the Lord wants us in this chapter, as we're looking through this, the Lord really wants us to come to him and know that's the most important part, is loving ourselves because he loves us so we can love others. Yeah. It has to start with loving him.
Yeah. And people know. I mean, when you're around, they can, if they're being seen or known by you,
Yeah.
And if you know that you're being seen and known by the Lord, it's easy for you. You want to look to see what he's about, what's his heart, and who, because it's like, oh, man, when our eyes are fixed upon him, like he takes care of us. We don't have to be concerned about that. And then we carry his heart to others just the same way. But it's like, where do we get to that point of depth of understanding how truly loved we are by him? And for some that might even be listening might not understand that yet. And our hope and our prayer is that you come, cry out to him, talk to him, like he's not gonna, he's not denying you. He will not deny you. I mean, it's just.
And this is only the first couple pages of this
I know,
chapter.
it's so good. Some people that those, what are my gifts? What are my strengths? And you start, like, I don't want to talk about myself. I don't want to do that. But, ask the Lord to show you. And you might even write yourself a little letter to say, and ask the Lord to help you write. How have I been made a godly, beautiful impact on those how have I made that impact on others that I love?
So I've noticed this last week, I had an experience that was stepping into loving in a way that I'd never been comfortable.
Yeah.
A friend was in the hospital and I went to visit her a couple times, and I really love her and I really had a good time. But in the past, going to see somebody who wasn't feeling well was uncomfortable to me. It was, I don't know how to explain it. I was just like, and I didn't experience that this time. I was able to let the love come out.
That's awesome.
And I don't know if it made her feel that much better, but it was good for me. And now I knew that I was walking where the Lord wanted me to walk to open up that part of who I am.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never, and I'm sure probably. I mean, you can talk to Larry, but I've gotten notes from people from the past too who said, times that I didn't know, but I felt like the Lord prompted me to do something, and then you don't know the impact, and then years later you might not ever. Like I said, people who led me, the Lord don't, or did things for me, and just don't have that. Maybe I didn't get an opportunity to say thank you because maybe I moved out of town or whatever. But I believe one day we'll see each other and we'll be able to rejoice in all that, right? And how we, I just feel like it's just the relationships are so important, and that's where I think the Lord is.
Well, and unless I knew that Jesus loved me that way, He's always there when I don't feel good or I'm uncomfortable. I couldn't have reached out and given that love.
Yeah.
So.
Isn't that awesome? Because and He loves me not because of performance.
No.
That's, it's like.
That's true. It wasn't, I have to. It was.
I get to.
Yeah.
I get to do this. And it's just, it's like looking at others in a more deeper way through His heart is it's life-giving. It's not life-sucking like some people think. I gotta go do this. I don't really want to do it. But it's like when you're doing it out of a motive of love, from the motive of your heart is love. If that's where the motive is, it's going to be awesome. And there's no strings attached. There's no, you're not expecting anything in return from it either. It's like a beautiful, just
fruit.
Encounter.
A fruit, yeah.
Yeah, and the fruit in my life, it just I get joy out of it. It's like even if others don't get it, I'm still gonna get joy out of it. And I think we're kind of in the recovering stages of as you go through seasons of life, recovering who we really are of ourselves. The more we spend time with the Lord, the more we're in His Word, the more we're looking to Him and meeting with people and others and being in community, we're recovering parts of ourselves. I remember when I was going through a lot of healing, and because of things that had been done to me, and people were praying over me, and when they were praying, I literally saw, because they were praying to take back what was stolen from me, and taking back parts of my soul and my that were taken from me because of what had been done, and then things that were left on me from others that weren't for me to take on, to release that out. And I literally had a visual of it, and it was like I was scattered all over the world, and I saw these pieces of me coming back because of all. It was just the most, and it was like, wow, I forgot about that, because that happened, this was taken from me, and in my own view of myself. It was like just a, amazing. And the people were praying over me. They didn't know what I was seeing, but it was like I had that encounter. I could see it, and it was like the most remarkable. Almost like I kind of like, I love the dandelion. The white.
The puffy things.
Puffy ones. If you blow on them and they could scatter everywhere. I felt like that was the visual of me that was scattered everywhere.
Oh wow!
And then God was piecing it back to make even more beautiful flower. Isn't that amazing though?
It is.
So God speaks to me in visuals of a lot of times with plants and butterflies and insects.
Nature.
Yeah. So, not just insects too though, but I would say birds and
rocks, trees.
Rocks. I love it all. Going finding rocks. I always I like to go on when I'm taking the kids on hunt. We went to Enchanted Rock in outside of Fredericksburg and Texas, and beautiful place to go take, and we took our kids. So the whole time that we were there, I thought, we're only gonna be here now. We were there a few hours, and longer because we were looking for treasure. Like I said, look in nature, look at the different things, see if you can find birds, see if you can find this. And they would find little rocks that were different shapes and what it looked like. Some were hearts. And it's kind of like that, is like letting the Lord come to us and even going to Him to find the treasure, right? Who we are, finding it in others.
Yes.
What's the treasure in others?
Yes. It's easier to see the treasure in others than it is in yourself. Often you can see because you've not felt their hurt.
Yeah.
So you can see sometimes.
So, but it's interesting because the Lord says you love others as you love yourself. So I'm thinking we can see that, but there's probably even deeper treasure if we see it in
ourselves. Yeah.
When we see it in us. That. I think we can go even deeper in that.
So one of the next statements that I popped onto was the practice of loving yourself is not meant to puff up.
Yeah.
So it's not a I'm more important than anybody or I'm better than anybody. It's just it's life coming into you.
It's a confidence, not an arrogance.
Yeah.
And that's another, because I've done studies on both of those. The Lord took me on this study. I want to take you on. But we know we're coming out for the listeners out there. I hope that this will encourage you to seek Him more, to go after Him, to build, to get in community, get involved in community. If you're not in community, reach out to us at, Beloved Unveiled at Proton Mail is one of my emails. Also, our building community at gmail.com is another one that you can reach out to us, and we'd love to talk with you, help you get in community, maybe do this study somewhere, and we can help get you started on it. Just reach out to us. It's great talking with you again, Kim, and always, and we've got great adventures ahead. We'll be talking, going more into self-care,